Okay, let's talk gold and how I mark up my charts to find an entry. So I only ever trade gold, and I want to show you how I mark up my charts, the best way to get in if gold is on a run and things like that. Just explain how I trade, and then hopefully it can help someone who watches this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of everything, and then I will remark it up so you can see what I did. So what we do is start on the highest time frame. So I usually generally start on the daily. And let's get rid of these as well, and then I'll show you how I mark these up. So I like to trade. I'll give you a couple of people. Well, one lady that I watch is oh my goodness, what's she called? Tory Trades with Tory. Let me just look her up. I can't remember what she's called. Yeah, she's on YouTube and she's also on TikTok, and she's called Tory Trades, and she is basically just a trendline trader. I don't particularly just trade trend lines, but they really help when you're trying to, one, identify a trend, and two, know when to come in. So what Tori does is she marks up, let's get rid of these. She starts on the higher time frame, weekly, I think. She might even go as far back as monthly. So let's do it from the daily. So as you can see here, we've got a trend line that started there. So she will call that point A and then point B. So your next trend line wants to come from point B, your last point B. So we are on the daily, we use the ray, we go to the point B and mark it up. These actually should all be changed to yellow because that is my uptrend candle. So let's do that. Right. So then we've got our point A there on the daily and our point B there. So we can do another trend line on the daily. So let's get our ray. We don't use a trend line because you can't move it, you can't adjust it, whereas the ray has two points. So, and what you want to do is you want to look for, like, so that's your point A. Hang on, I'm pointing with my finger and you literally can't see my finger. How silly. So this is your point A, that's your point B. So then your next trend line starts from your point B, and you want to touch. Can you see here? It touched there, and then the next touch point would be there. Because if you go for these, you can go for them if you want. Obviously that went through, but because we are marking up to date, we're going to go there. So wherever it touches. So that's all we can really do on the daily. Now, what I want to show you, I'm going to mark this up, but it has actually gone through the trend line now. But because gold was consolidating for so long, I want to show you how you know when to come in with it passing through a trend line. So originally it was from that top one, and it was to there. Can you see it goes in a line of where it is touching? Let's do that one pink because that is our down candles. Right, can you see there? That's our first touch point, and then this last pink one was the next touch point. As you can see, it's gone through. That's what I want to talk about on your entry. So the 4 hour, as you can see here, zoom out. We could also, that's our point B, get another trend line there. You don't have to trade trend lines, but honestly, it really does help. But I also trade support and resistance. So there we go. That's our trend line. To be honest, I probably wouldn't bother with that one because from this point, this is where I look at support and resistance, or floor and ceiling, whatever you want to call it. So now I'm on the 4 hour. I want to find my support, which is kind of like the floor. It's what's holding it up. It's where it doesn't go past, basically. So as you see, the charts go up and down, up and down, up, down, up, down. And what you want to find when you're finding your support and resistance is the most points where it's stopped as it's coming down, and then that is your support. And then where it stops going up, where is it not gone past, that is your resistance, because it's resisting to go through that line. So then I get this little tool here, and as you can see here, our resistance or ceiling, and we will mark it all the way here because there's something else I want to show you as well. And then here would be another one. So this is support, right? Because it's holding the price up. The price has not gone below that. So you can call it support or the floor, right? Then up here, as you can see, it touched there, it touched there. This is what we call resistance because it is resisting to push through, or you can call it the ceiling, right? There we go, resistance, ceiling. Now, one way that you can trade, which is what I do, is, as you can see here, this, because it's not doing anything, is called consolidation. So all the time, the trade is just moving in between this support and this resistance, this floor and this ceiling. It is called consolidation, okay? Now, on the higher time frame, it looks like this. Let's go on to a lower time frame and zoom out. Now here it is marked up. So as you can see, it's a lot more messy because there's more. This is the 15 minutes. So each candle represents 15 minutes. So it looks like there's a lot more movement. Now, you can actually trade consolidation. Some people say don't, but I do. If it's up here and it's in consolidation and it doesn't look like it's going to push past, you can put a sell on and follow it down, and it will generally stop at the floor, the support, and then it will go back up. It's just when it gets little and messy like this. If it's hovering around in the middle, don't trade that. But if it's literally going up and down, touching your resistance, your support, your resistance, your support, there's no reason why you can't trade it on the smaller time frame. But if you're looking for bigger trades that you want it to hold, then come over to the higher time frame. And what we can see here is we've got that consolidation in between our floor and our ceiling. And what we're looking for in an entry is for it to break. So it's either going to break above, it's going to break through the ceiling, or it's going to break below the support or the floor. If it breaks below, we're looking for a sell. If it breaks above, then we're looking for a buy. Now, what you can do is as soon as it breaks through, you can put a buy on and follow it up with a trailing stop loss. If that's how you trade, I do always trade with a trailing stop loss. Or you can wait for it. Once it breaks, generally, once it breaks the resistance, it will generally always come back down to retest it. Generally, as a rule. But sometimes when gold is on a run, which I am more than sure it's going to be come Sunday when the market's open again, because there is war going on in Iran today. The US have said it. It's all over the news, you probably know. And gold is currently above this line. Anyway, I think it's around 4,500. 5,400 mark at this moment in time. The markets are closed, but I don't know how you trade over a weekend. I just presume I'm not professional enough. But obviously the markets are still going, but for retail traders, we can't trade it. But anyway, so what we're looking for is a break through the resistance for a buy. So you can either buy straight away, or you can wait for it to come back down and retest this. So then, as you can see, what was your ceiling now becomes the support, because it stopped there and it hasn't been able to go through. So while this was resistance ceiling here, because it's broken through and retested, it now becomes the support floor, okay? And then, so it retested, this is now supporting this price here, and it pushed back up. If you don't want to trade a breakout of resistance, then this is when the trend line comes in. So remember, we marked our trend line on the daily from the highest point to the next point where it touches, okay? I could do it there, but I want to show you the actual breakthrough because gold's been consolidating for a while, as you can see here. So it broke through the resistance and then it stopped there. That's where we draw our trend line. So from, let's have a look, the 23rd, 24th, it came back and retested the support, and then all last week it pretty much just consolidated. As you can see, it only consolidated a tiny bit. So it's already broken through our support and resistance, and then it decided to consolidate again. So as you can remember, this was the ceiling. It broke through the ceiling, so this now becomes the support. So what you can do is think, right, it's broken through the ceiling, it's retested where it broke through, and this is now the support. So wait for it to break the trend line, or you can work out where your new ceiling would be, which would be there. Okay, so then this, can you see where it stopped in the consolidation? This, oops, now becomes the resistance or the ceiling, and it's only very small because it consolidated so tiny these last few days. It's been painful to watch, to be fair, not being able to jump in. So can you see it broke through the ceiling, it retested the ceiling to see if it was going to break back down, but this then came support, and then it went up, stopped there, came back down, went up again, stopped there again, came back down, went up, stopped there, came back down to the support, the floor, tried to break through that again but got pushed back up, stopped there, stopped there, stopped there, tried to push back down, nothing happened at all. It's a tiny pink candle in my case. It will be red if your candles are the actual colours of green and red. Then we had a huge push up here. It broke this trend line, so you could put a buy on there as it breaks the trend line, or you can wait to see if it pushes through the resistance. You can use both as double confirmation, to be honest. You can either buy straight in there, or you can think, hang on, there is some resistance there, I'll wait to see if it's going to push through there as well, which it did. So you then have double confirmation that it's broken the trend line, it's broken the resistance, the ceiling, and it's carrying on. So you could enter a buy there. Now, it's pushing all the way up at the minute. Obviously, there is those attacks on Iran and Israel and whatever else is going on in the world. So I do believe that come Sunday when the markets open, there's going to be a jump up. I have heard it is hovering around 5,400 mark already, so there should be a jump up there. But please remember, because it has pushed through this ceiling, what are we expecting it to do? We're expecting it to come back down at some point and retest. So then this will then become support. Once it comes back down and retest. Oh, where's my writing gone? I can't see it. Yeah. Am I making sense? So it pushed through the ceiling here. The ceiling then became support. It carried on. This was the resistance. It's pushed through the resistance, the ceiling again. It's going to continue up. At some point, it will come back and test this support area at some point. But when gold is on a run, it can take a while for it to come back down and retest this support. So then the question is, if gold is on a major run, you get instant FOMO and think, oh, I need to jump in, but I don't know where to jump in. Don't just jump in willy-nilly here, because it could come back down and then you'll lose out. This is when trend lines come in really handy. So let me show you on this one. So this was when gold had another push up from here. As you can see, it consolidated there and then it pushed up. And as you can see here, that would have been the ceiling that it broke out of here. So then, can you remember me saying it does eventually come back and retest? So this would have been the resistance, which is the ceiling. Okay, and as we know, it pushed through that and it does come back and retest it at some point, but as we can see here, it didn't do it until here. So from this date, which was that was Sunday when Asia opened, so from Sunday it broke through, and then what date's that? 18th. We didn't get a retest. It started dropping on the 29th of Jan. So what is that? Let's have a look. So from the 18th to the 29th, so we had like a whole week, nearly 2 weeks of an uptrend. So then I hear you ask, if it is on a massive uptrend, how do I know when to join in? So this is when your trend line comes in. This is when trend lines are really handy. Soon as we see that break, let's go to the lowest point, which would be there, and draw a trend line to the next point. Basically, your entry, if gold is on a big run up and you don't know when to enter because you don't just want to jump in, you need an exact entry that's going to get you the best entry to earn the best amount of money. So it broke the resistance. Now, it always has to do some type of retest to bring it back down to gain more money to be able to push back up. This is when your trend line comes in perfectly, or you watch your candles and let the chart tell you what is happening. So it went up here, it came up. Can you see here? 1, 2, 3. Let's draw a little line. This is the things you need to look out for when you're wanting to enter. 3 there, look. Let's do it to that and then you can see. It went to there, it got pushed down. It tried again, it stayed. It tried again, it stayed. This is a very small resistance in an uptrend. So we wait for it to come down and it more than likely touches this trend line, okay? And then it goes back up. Let's show you again. It ran up a bit more, so you could have got an entry in here. It ran up there. The candles get smaller, as you can see. I'm trying to do a little line for you to see. We've got nice big candle there, candle. These two get smaller. It didn't go further there. It didn't go further there. It came back there. and then it started to go up. So it's always gonna do this kind of pattern. And what you need to do is not rush, not panic, just wait for this. If you see that it's on an uptrend, like it is at the moment, pardon me, like it is at the moment here, I would not enter here as much as, oh no, I've just dropped my mouse. As much as FOMO gets you, and that's the problem with a lot of new traders, and that's the problem that I had when I first started trading, is I saw these. I would have got in here when it crossed the trend line, or I would have got in here when it went through the ceiling. But here, you're in no man's land. You don't know if it's going to carry on. You don't know if it's going to come back and retest that support straight away. So the thing I would wait for is a retest like that, a small one, okay? So because we are here now, what we can do is from this support, we can draw a trend line. So from this lowest point here, draw it up to there, change the colour because that's an uptrend. We can get rid of this one now because it's already passed through that. So what we're waiting for now is a retest either down to this support or somewhere along this trend line, because what gold will do, like I said, it's supposedly around this area right now at this moment, this weekend. So what we want to do is wait for it to come back to here, and then we'll jump in and follow it back up, okay? I hope that makes sense. So that is how I trade. The trend lines are generally to make me see when to jump in a trade if it's on a long run. They really do help knowing when to get in. The support and the resistance is generally how I trade. I'll wait for either a breakthrough. If I've missed this break, I will wait for it to retest, or I will draw a trend line and wait for it to come back to the trend line and then jump in. Okay, you can't jump in here in absolutely no man's land. It's more than likely, look, you could jump in there, and if you've only got a small amount, if you've only got a small account, your account's either going to get closed. If you use a stop loss, you're going to get stopped out. Those are the two ways I trade: resistance, support and resistance, or wait for it to break a trend line. When it breaks the trend line, that's when I jump in. Let's get rid of that one because that's pointless. As you can remember here, I had this trend line drawn this week. It was to there, and it broke through. I actually have a trade on at the moment. I missed the trend line and I waited for it to break this support. So I think I'm in a trend round about here somewhere. So I'll tell you next week what I've earned off that. But I jumped in round about here after it broke the resistance because I missed it breaking the trend line. So that's one good reason to mark up both support and resistance, or floor and ceiling, if you remember that better. And then always mark up on the higher time frames because it's clearer, it gives you more of a market structure, it tells you more of what the market is doing. The smaller time frames are good to jump in on. I only ever go really the 15-minute. That's kind of like the smallest chart I'll trade. If I have a trade on, sometimes I will go to the minute, and that I use the minute to trail my stop loss. But that's it, I don't trade the minute because the minute is too fast and there's too many little candles and you get faked out too much. So mark up on the 4 hour. As you can see, it's nice and clear. We had the huge consolidation here, it broke out, then it consolidated again, but then it broke this trend line. this trend line has been the one that we've been waiting for. I marked up this trend line a bit ago from the top, and I think it was there, and then it broke through there. But obviously, if you watch my previous video, I've had a really crappy month this month. I'm not going through it all again because it's in my video. So I don't even think I took this trade. So yeah, and then once it breaks your trend line, and if you've entered that trade and follow it up, then you can get rid of that and see where it's going to go next week. Remark your charts with these trend lines. Your support and resistance will always change. Like you can see it has here, this was the resistance. It broke through, so it's now become the support. Okay, and also here, this was resistance. As you can see here, it's broke it, so it now becomes support. And that's how it changes. And that is how I trade. I hope that makes sense. I always feel like when I'm trying to explain stuff, I babble a bit and, yeah, babble on a bit. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. And any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll try and answer. Bye.